Hello, everybody. I am Dr. Greer Kirschenbaum.
And I'm Dr. Rocío Zunini. Welcome back to Spoil Your Baby.
Today, we are diving into one of the most hot and passionate and probably misunderstood topics in infant care, which is sleep. So, this kind of just came up last night. I was on social media and I saw a post that really stood out to me that I think really helps us get into infant sleep, get into what is out there, what are we dealing with, how deep this, don't spoil your baby message is ingrained in sleep and ingrained in parenting, and really brings us back to our message, which is the don't spoil. It's not working. It's not good for babies. It's not good for parents. It's not good for Earth. It's not good for humanity. We need to spoil our babies. We just have to. Could not be more sure of that than ever. So I'm going to read a little of this post, and then Rocío and I are going to get into it. So it's posted in a group where someone is asking for sleep help. So they're really at the end of their rope. They're needing help from the group. So they said up until about 3 weeks ago, their 24-month-old daughter was a great sleeper, went down to sleep with a routine. They sort of did like the usual bath, bottle, books, turn off the light, leave the room without helping the baby to sleep. Baby fell asleep on their own, and they would stay asleep for 12 hours. So that was like their baby presumably was sleep trained at a young age, and that sleep training has lasted now until 24 months old. So 3 weeks ago, the child was sick. We know that this often will lead parents to respond more at night. So the child was sick. And now when the parents turn off the lights and leave the room, the child is screaming in terror when the parents leave the room. The parents tried to leave the child for 30 minutes alone, but could tell that the child was so scared that they caved and picked her up. And the parents are saying now that their child is a monster and will not sleep or stay asleep unless the parents are in the room with her. They've tried everything. They say it's ruining their lives. They can't do anything after she goes to bed or take care of their other child. And the parents very anxious that this child will wake up screaming again. And most of the time, the parents are bringing this child into their bed so that they can sleep, and they're looking for help. So a lot in there. I feel like activated reading that and feeling a lot for this parent and this child.
Yes, absolutely heartbreaking. Because we're not here to judge the parents. This is extremely heartbreaking for parents as well, for the whole family. Yeah. And this is what we want to discuss today.
Yeah. It's really a product of some of the myths we covered in our last episode. And a lot more a product of a lot of the myths of infant sleep. So where should we start? Should we go through and kind of talk about some of the things in here?
Yes. So if we go in order,
yes,
of the older things that pop up to me, the first one is brings up a myth of sleep training, that you only do it once and then forever you have these good sleep habits. And this is actually not true, because every time there is a developmental leap of sickness or traveling, every time there is a change, babies normally, start calling for the caregiver responds because of the situation. Mm-hmm. And then somehow the babies forget the skill that they learn. So this just shows you that, sleep training is not really teaching anything. it's not changing sleep, and it's not teaching them to sleep alone. What is it doing, Greer?
Yeah, it's so many of the rules of it are important because it is not teaching a baby to self-soothe. It is not teaching a baby to learn to fall asleep alone. It's teaching them that in a very specific environment, this is why the rule is they have to sleep in the same place for every nap and every night in this one environment. When I signal for help, when I cry out, nobody comes. And going through that energy to signal, to call out is not adaptive because no one's coming. And so what children are learning is not to self-soothe, not to handle their own stress, not to really fall asleep alone through a normal pathway to sleep, which is a rested state. They're learning to shut down, to go into a freeze state, a dissociated state, and to shut down. And that is why when the environment changes, so if there's travel, that new environment is not, hasn't been learned to be a place to shut down. And so the drive to have help at night and to have co-regulation at night is so strong and so high that it will come up. Again, child will say, oh, if I signal here, perhaps I'll have this vital need met. And so they will start signaling on vacation. Parents will respond because they're in a hotel or there's other people around. And then the child will then, have that hope. Okay, if I signal at night now, someone's coming. Same with illness, right? You mentioned when
Yes.
when children are ill, their parents say, oh, well, they're going to need help at night now during illness, right? And during developmental leaps too.
And from the perspective of the child, this looks like repair, sort of like, oh, now you're responding.
Yeah.
And so I will always now ask you.
Yes.
Because they, children are very forgiving, that they're very, they go back to their core needs, and if you can repair this. So for them, it's like, okay, now you're helping me, so I'm always gonna call you now. But then the parents are told, no, you have to retrain and go up again with this situation, which will bring us to the next part of this post.
Yeah. And some people do, have this experience where they've done sleep training maybe at a really young age, haven't really changed much. And now at 24 months, when children then will develop verbal abilities, so they can, instead of crying, they can say, I need you, help me. They might try that because they have a new strategy of asking for help. Or it just becomes intolerable to continue to shut down when you need help so badly. And so that's what I see is happening with this child at 24 months. They have now developed an aversion to this environment where they've been left alone with stress and with needs for 2 years. And they're just saying no. They're saying, maybe I have more free will now. Maybe I have words now. Maybe I understand I have an impact on the world. So I'm not going to go in there knowing the door is getting shut for 12 hours.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to bring up is that the words here used by the parent are, she started screaming in absolute terror. That's the word of the parent, terror. So if you listen to our previous episode, we talk about implicit memory. We have no way of showing this, but this is my hypothesis. Given what we know about developmental neuroscience, I think that here what is being activated is an implicit memory.
Yeah.
And probably now because explicit memory is also more is developing, and so somehow comes to the surface, of like, oh, my body is remembering something. What is it? I hate this crib. I'm in absolute terror, because that's probably what the feeling was earlier on when they went to this process first.
Absolutely.
That's my hypothesis, knowing what we know about implicit memory. I think this is being activated here.
Yeah, completely. And sleep training usually starts at 4 months. It's 4 months, 6 months, sometimes a little older. Babies have no concept that there's any person permanence. They don't know parents are coming back. They don't know they're safe, and are in a state of absolute terror, the way that this mother is explaining the state of her child.
Yeah. So the next thing that is they want to dissect sort of from this post is the word, again, the language. So the baby cry for 30 minutes, and then the word that the parent uses is I cave and pick her up. Listen to this language, I cave. This is a very internalized myth of you are responding to your baby, you are spoiling your baby, you are damaging your baby if you respond, you are making your baby dependent. All of those myths are internalized and then come out with this type of language that we use, I cave, which is, very, very heartbreaking.
And what's really happening? Tell us about the parental brain. What's really happening?
The parental brain is going crazy. Again, we have no studies to show this. It's my hypothesis. Our hypothesis really agrees with me, because we know a lot about the parental brain, a lot. And the parental brain is designed to respond with sensitivity and with synchrony. Is designed for that, is wired for that. And so it's a very, very, very hard for a parent not to respond. This parent waited 30 minutes and then she was like, I cave. No, what happens here is her parental brain just had enough and was like, I need to go to respond to my child. But there is a disconnection from this innate knowledge because of the noise out there. So we're thinking we're caving in, when in reality it's like we are supposed to be doing exactly what we're supposed. Like what she did, what this parent did is exactly what is supposed to happen. Only that it should be without all this waiting and
Completely. And the parental brain is magnified. Like cries are magnified in the parental brain, right? We know this. Like how many moms hear a phantom cry in the shower? Like the pipe squeaks the wrong way and you think your baby's crying. You are primed to be listening for cries. So you're going against that. Your amygdala, your fear center, is super active especially when you're not near your baby or child. So your amygdala is just firing worry, fear, concern, telling you to run to that baby. And the myths out there have put us in a position to betray our own brain, to betray our own biological instincts to be protective and responsive. It's, one of the most egregious things I can think of. Like, where do we go from there as a mother? You can't trust yourself. That's what we're being told. So damaging.
Yes, very damaging for the whole family. And then again, the language here. A monster is born and she won't sleep. A monster is born. And again, this comes from, I created this bad habit. I created this bad baby. This is not a good baby because it doesn't sleep alone. All of these myths, again, very internalized and coming out in a perception of the baby as being a monster.
Yes. Absolutely. Right. Say it this way. I resisted. I didn't go in for 30 minutes, but then I did. And now I've created a monster. Now my child is a monster. When we put that through a neuroscience lens, how does it sound then? Right. I listened to my completely normal biological drive to protect my baby. And now they need me. And they need me, which is also a completely normal drive for a 2-year-old. Anything else we want to say? I mean, I hear the name calling in sleep. I hear it in all different places. And it's all coming from this, again, nebulous force of, you're going to spoil your baby. Don't spoil your baby. Don't spoil your baby. So the second our child needs us or needs us extra or has needs, any emotional needs, they're a diva or a monster or, a suck or a whip or, all of these things that people call their babies when the babies are just perfectly normal, growing, healthy babies, right? That have these needs. And, we'll go into that later as well. But it's really heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking for parents to be in this position. And it's even more heartbreaking for a completely beautiful, normal baby to be rejected and called names this way.
Yeah. And I just want to end with the last thing that I want people to see here is that all of this baby need is one of the parents to be in the room with her, to sleep with her.
Yeah.
That is all.
Yeah.
That is all. But from the perception of the parents, it's like our lives are ruined. That's the wording again. Yeah. Our lives are ruined. And again, it's because of the noise in the culture, right? But all of this baby needs is just somebody to lay down beside her and sleep. And so I just wanted to end with that note of like saying, if you are in this situation that you're told that your baby needs you to lay down beside you to sleep, this is normal. Mm-hmm. This is beautiful. This is brain building. This is presence. This is attunement. So just listen to your parental brain, because it will tell you to do just that and ignore all the noise.
Completely. And why is it that we're in a position to be feeling that our lives are ruined? Because a baby needs us to lie down with them, to fall asleep. And it's this same thing. It's this spoiling myth, these totally wrong beliefs about babies that are putting parents in this mindset to feel so anxious, so depressed, so tortured. And the solution is knowing what babies need, knowing what parents need, and understanding it all, right? It's not so complicated in the end. And why is it that every parent is in this position where their child is a quote unquote monster who has this unreasonable request to need closeness at night? And the answer is that they're actually beautiful, wonderful little beings who require this to feel safe, and we can give it to them. And I would also say, as we wrap up, it's the sleep training and all of the lies and myths of sleep training and this low nurture care for babies that's ruining these people's lives. That's ruining all the parents' lives out there. Because something very, very normal is happening here, and there's a very beautiful opportunity for this child to have health and these parents to have health if these myths weren't there. And I just hope people will wake up to it sooner than later. This 2-year-old for the next year could have this repair. They could have repair.
So stay tuned for the next episode. And in the meantime, I want to encourage you to stay connected to your heart and keep on spoiling your baby.